Welcome to welcome to episode 1 of welcome to episode 1 of our podcast. This is the second time we're filming this because our first attempt was shit because the faculty didn't have microphones. So hopefully the audio on this.
Okay, well, no one needed to know that. Now
it was shit in the audio sense, but it was probably the funniest content to ever exist on planet Earth. Yeah, which is really unfortunate that it won't be released for that reason.
We could have done a comedy tour if we released that content.
It's super unfortunate that'll never get released because it
might be a Netflix special when they figure out how to fix the audio.
Probably not. Anyways.
Moving on. Since this is our first episode, we wanted to actually introduce ourselves. We assume most people listening to this are going to be our clients, so they probably know a little bit about us. But not all of our clients know.
Half our clients probably don't even know that we have YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're going to find out very soon that we have a YouTube account because this is going on YouTube first.
Yep.
So we haven't quite figured out how to upload it onto Spotify or podcast.
We're just waiting for Spotify to reach out to us and give us a brand deal. So
we want a Joe Rogan sponsorship deal.
Yeah, it's in the works.
I'll even take $500 million. I don't even need a full $1 billion. If you guys want it.
You did $1 billion.
No.
What was his deal?
Joe Rogan.
Probably 100. I think it was 100 mil.
100 mil?
To exclusively go on Spotify instead of Apple Podcasts.
I can't imagine our bill then.
That's what I mean. I'll settle. If you guys want to take more of a cut, I'll just have $500 million. That's enough for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Sachin, and what is my little history? I've been a PT for now, just over 10 years. I sort of fell into it accidentally. I like training. I think like most people that become PTs, eventually, did at some point. Don't really like it anymore, to be honest. Just do it. I actually hate training. Just do it for the sake of training now.
So you said you hate PTing.
No. I love PTing still. I don't necessarily love training anymore.
Right.
That comes and goes, I think.
Yeah, it happens in phases.
I think most clients would understand that as well. So I've been doing it 10 years. I have sort of branched out into doing other things in between that 10 years as well. I've done a bunch of upskilling courses that have sort of led me down different pathways. But for the most part, it's been really focused on becoming a good PT in the group sense, and we've built out what is essentially our group PT model based on the kind of structure of what I've learned over the years doing those upskilling courses. What else? I just finished my remedial massage course and jumped straight into my therapy, so that's some more upskilling stuff that I'm trying to get done, which has been really weird. I think being back in the classroom setting, back in school after 12 years old?
30
years.
At
30 years old, it feels strange, but I'm probably one of the youngest people on my course, to be honest. It's really weird, but yeah. I'm going to pass it over to Maddie because I think I'm just rambling now.
I'm Maddie.
You're Maddie, yeah?
I'm Maddie. I only joined working in the industry the start of this year. Previous to this, I was in real estate for 6 years, I think, since I finished school. Again, I kind of fell into this. We prepped for a bodybuilding competition, which was something different. And then I feel like I was training well before then, but I feel like wanting to know more about the industry came from doing that. So that's when I started my Cert 3 and 4. And I've only got 3 assessments left, and I'm finished my Cert 4, which is good. And I'm loving it so far. Loving having taken the leap into the industry and see where we can go.
Nice. I started 2015. I did it because I was struggling to find what I was actually passionate about and what career path I wanted to go down. I think, that's not necessarily I think a lot of people never actually find, or go down the path of working in their passion, right? But I was kind of at the time a bit lost and not sure what I wanted to do, and I was working some sort of retail jobs and an office job, which was sort of on a contract, which was coming up soon. And the only thing I'd sort of ever stuck with more than 1 or 2 years, my passion sort of chop and change all the time. And the only thing that I found which was a constant, which was that I enjoyed working out and just fitness in general, and I was always sort of interested in learning more across many years, and getting better at things and my own workouts and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, look, why don't I give that a shot? I mean, it's something that I've been passionate about for much longer than everything else I've been passionate about. And it sort of just worked out that I could do my course while I was working in my office job. And then because my course ended at a similar time as my job ended up finishing up, I had sort of got, a bit of a payout from all my annual leave that I'd saved up from there. And then I was jobless, and then I'd also just got my Cert 3 and 4. So I was like, oh, may as well, this is the opportunity, right? Like, I have savings, I can try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then that's when I got into sort of PT one-on-one at Good Life. And then from there, I guess, enjoyed it, but kind of felt a bit stagnant for a while there, honestly, like later years, pre to COVID. And then when COVID hit, I was kind of at a crossroads where I was like either leaving the industry altogether, because I really didn't feel like going back to that sort of stagnant one-on-one job, or I guess the ultimate goal of most PTs, which is to open a gym, right? And that just fell into, I guess it was Sachin's idea originally, but it sort of fell into both of our laps, and the timing ended up being pretty good with it.
Spot on, yeah.
And the cost of having the factory we first started out was surprisingly very similar to our rent at Good Life combined anyway. So it almost, apart from, I guess, the equipment cost, the initial outlay for that, like, it was like, why wouldn't we do this, right? So, and then I guess I'm sort of just about to finish up my bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science, with my sort of minor being in strength conditioning, but the whole course I've sort of also been working through like nutrition subjects, and then also a little bit of counselling as well, which I find pretty interesting at the moment. That's me. Mine was way longer than everyone else's, so all right, let's get into it.
I think it's dipped into how it all started for us. Corey, I don't know why you're that far. Can you shuffle this way a bit? Yeah, there we go. I guess it dove into why evolution started in the first place.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that more, I guess. Like, what do you think the fundamentals of what we do are, and why what is it that we wanted to do when we opened and versus now, I guess?
I guess it's important for us to explain. You're going to hear me say, I guess it's important a bunch of times, and don't think it's important every time I say that, by the way. Because most of the time it's not.
No.
Glad you said it, because I was going to.
No, I think, fairly vital for us to explain why evolution started.
Do you think vital or important is more like?
Vital's definitely.
I rate it.
Really?
I like it.
Vital's higher,
Okay.
Crucial, vital.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely lower.
So what's that in Colombian?
That's a reference that no one
What's
gets.
the language?
Spanish.
It is Spanish,
Gonna get
and
it.
it's
in our first attempt episode,
I was thinking Sinhalese in my head.
yeah.
Corey told us he's been learning Spanish on Duolingo.
Colombian.
Yeah.
Because Mads knows only the languages by their country. Anyway, we speak Australian.
We do.
Why evolution started? Well, Corey and I, we realised during COVID that we lived like 2 streets away from each other, which we didn't really have any idea of prior to COVID.
No.
We were friends at Good Life when we worked together for a couple of years there in the same sort of social group, but we weren't really like super close friends. But I think I randomly just reached out to you to see what you're up to and how you were travelling.
It was because I posted a run.
Did you?
I think I screenshotted one of my Strava runs at the time.
That started. We were early to the running era, guys.
Yeah.
We've been there, done that.
But we never went on a run.
No, we actually didn't. That's actually true. That's what, we didn't actually go on a run. We ended up catching up heaps during COVID, just going for walks, grabbing a coffee, chatting, and a lot of the sort of conversations we had around going back into PT is like what we would change if we were to go back into. I was working in a factory, stacking pallets for Woolworths, which I got through. I think it was Daniel, one of the members of Good Life. He reached out to me and was like, "Do you need a job?" Because I honestly didn't feel like I needed a job, but I was doing nothing. I just wanted to fill time, so that was really handy to have through COVID. But yeah, through these conversations we had, sort of back and forth, we worked out, I guess, what we didn't like about Good Life for ourselves as coaches, but also like what we felt like we could create as far as creating a better experience for our clients, which is the core reason why the gym runs and functions the way it does. We would quite frequently plan sessions that just couldn't be completed, and I think every PT that works in a commercial environment understands this. They understand the fact that like you might plan a workout and 9 times out of 10 you can't actually do the workout because there's just no equipment available, especially if you're doing sessions in peak hours, right? Whether that be the peak morning hours or the peak nighttime hours. The availability of equipment quite significantly changed the workout you planned, and it was being a good PT in those environments. Yeah. Literally being adaptable.
But also like if you want to be a good PT, you also want to be organised, and you want to make sure that you're writing out your clients' programs and making sure you're on top of everything, right? And then you literally can't do that in a commercial gym unless you're training like, between the hours of like 1 and 4 p.m. maybe, and no one can do that. It's just not feasible. Yeah.
And then I got a little bit of a push from one of my clients who gives us a lot of business advice. He's a fairly successful business person, and we just kind of like I had no inkling to even like look deeper into what the costs were or what it would be like. And the first factory we looked at sort of fell into our laps as far as hitting the right price point for a place to get started in, and the equipment costs, like setup wise, being something that we could afford at the time. I had a bunch of money saved up for a house deposit. Corey had a bunch of money sitting there as well. We just kind of went in together and made it happen. What do you feel like the first 3? How long's it been? 3?
Yeah, 3 years.
No,
not quite.
No, 2.5.
2.5.
It'll be 3 in November, so it's not too far away. Yeah, I guess the frustrations on top of the frustrations we had around like getting on equipment, it was also the fact that a lot of people don't realise that to be a personal trainer at a commercial gym is quite expensive for the trainer, and so the charges, like the cost of PT is so high, not because like we think necessarily we're worth $70, $80, $100 an hour. It's that you're paying the gym to be there, so you have to cover your own costs, and so when you do the math on it, essentially, I was charging at Good Life at the time, like our rent was about $330 I think at the time per week, $330 a week, and so I was not even charging absurd amounts. I think I worked up to about $60 a session, right? You think about your first 6 sessions, you're working for free. And then only after that, that's already 6 hours work. Only after that do you start making any money. And so when you add up, okay, well, most people want to train early morning or late at night. You've got probably a 6-hour window of time where people actually want to train each day. You can really only do 30 hours a week if you're completely booked out.
Yeah. And
your first 6 are free. So, to earn any sort of reasonable income, is quite hard to do if you're charging any less than those. What feels, for some people that have never done PT before, they see that as that's quite an expensive thing. I want to train 3 times a week. That's nearly $200, But realizing, there's really no other choice with the way that the industry is at the moment. And we essentially wanted to sort of, I guess, solve those problems from the frustrations we had from our end of like not being able to get equipment, the gym being quite busy, paying absorbent amounts to be there, and not being able to give our clients the value that we want to give them. And also on the other end, like making it more affordable to train with us. And creating a model that works for that as well. So you don't have to pay $300 a week to train 4 or 5 times,
Yeah, like we've essentially been able to build out a structure for our membership that means you're not punished, but you're rewarded for training more frequently, right?
Yeah.
The more frequently you train, the more valuable
what you're spending
is.
And also that, like, another thing that's very common in gyms, not necessarily the PT side of it, but the actual gym itself, they almost want you to come less.
Yeah.
The model's set up in a way that you're almost encouraged, like, you know, they're not going to really reach out to you if you're not coming, because if you're paying your membership, great, you're not filling up a already busy gym with yourself, but you're still paying, right? And then it means they can oversell memberships and they can sell way more memberships than people actually going to the gym. And it's kind of how that model works, really. I mean, it doesn't work. You can't just go, this space can fit 200 people, we'll have 200 people. It's like, we've got
those places wouldn't operate and function in a profitable way. I mean, the money they're actually making in those clubs is insane when you do the numbers on it. Like, we used to sit there and do the numbers and we'd be like, these guys are killing it. Like, those companies, like, not just Good Life, like, this is the commercial gym model. Really functions only if you sign up and there's a large percentage of people that sign up and don't go. That's how they function. Right? Yeah. And the profitability on those things are insane.
Hence why they make it so hard to cancel.
Really, really hard. Yeah.
It's literally easier.
You can't cancel over. They don't want you to cancel over the
You've
phone.
seen all the memes and all the all the reels and TikToks about that.
Yeah.
How have you found us, Mads, as, because you've been with us since the start, you've been working with me as a coach before we even opened Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found the evolution of what we've done?
Wow, I'm punny.
Punny?
Nah, it's really good, and I think for me it was really good to see how, I guess, Evolution functioned in Good Life, and how those sessions are run, and sort of how the members turned up to those sessions, how it's so different now.
Yeah.
Like, we still have that, like, real strong community, and, like, you guys have obviously built, like, a really good, strong client base that clients have stayed with us for the whole time. But it's just, the whole member experience is, like, so much different now. Because
You don't
not
have
being...
Yeah.
It's just more, like, intimate. It's more something that people can make their own, you know, that it's their outlet for them, but it's not just the gym. It's, like, it's their little community outside of that.
I find that sometimes we miss, and like most people we train have probably been to a commercial gym before, probably signed up and quit and then come across to us. Like, I don't know if they realise, like, I know my clients in conversations I've been able to have with them that I've had forever really value what we've been able to create. But sometimes I don't know if it gets across to newer clients that we have.
Yeah.
Like, do they get it? Like,
I think, like, if coming from, obviously, because I was around you guys and I knew how much it was to PT out of a commercial gym. So now, like, when I look at the value of what you get doing something like this, it's insane to me, because me thinking, like, I would go and pay $70 for 45 minutes and that would get me one session a week. Like that now, I just think that's ludicrous. Like, I just can't imagine how anyone is affording to do that. So I just think the value is, like, so much more. And I actually agree. I don't think a lot of people see it. See the value that they get just by, like, the amount that they're paying.
Yeah.
Which you know, it almost, I think, and I guess we're probably our biggest critic a lot of the time around, like, we both definitely have the attitude of sort of always wanting to improve. So when you're always trying to improve the experience, you sometimes, well, quite often, I'm very guilty of this, of sort of not being happy with where it's at currently, rather than looking at how far we've actually come. And but I guess from my perspective as well, like, I always sort of was shocked that, you know, people saw the value in me when I worked out of a commercial gym, that they were willing to pay, you know, $180, $200 a week to see me. When I'm like, I don't feel like that's the value's there when you know you rock up to a session and it's like, look, the leg press is taken, let's what's free, that's free, let's go on there. And so I think, if anything, I think we offer a valuable service, but I think it is the right value for the right price point, and we're always looking to add more to the experience.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of and we don't ever think to increase the price, right? How weird is that?
Yeah.
No,
we don't.
That's the last thing that comes. It's just well, what more can we do?
And I reckon that's probably just like imposter syndrome, is eating way you slowly.
Which is not.
I think it's also the fear of, like, the unknown as well. Like, you don't there's that fear of like, will people leave or kind of thing. And
which I think naturally, but like that's been harder for me this year than ever, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something you grow to be okay with, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, people
That's
like,
a game.
know,
Well, it's
I'm going to train with you forever. There's clients I've been training for almost the whole entire 10 years. Like Julie and Mark, Julie especially, she's just past 10 years. Which is
That's great.
super uncommon for a PT client, but it's not the norm. So like, it's not like I put a high expectation on that as being what everyone does forever with us here. Circumstances change, I guess, and like,
yeah.
it is in the economy we're in right now a luxury item, isn't it? Like have a PT, to go to a gym, and like we see that we value our health enough to see the value in
Paying for that.
just training, right?
Yeah.
Like just training in general and being healthy. But like where that sits on someone's priority list changed from person to person, right? Which I always find strange. Like I've held it as my top priority for most of my life. Like I don't hold gaining money as a higher priority or creating wealth as a higher priority than my own health.
See, I used to
be the opposite.
I used to think, I used to not put my health as a priority. I think it helps when you're surrounded in the industry every day. Like, obviously, that's,
Your
like, we
mindset's
live,
there.
kind of breathe it. But yeah, it's still crazy to me that how much that I do value my health and, like, training and just being, like, physically active and healthy every day and being able to move my body, that there's so many people out there that still don't put that as a high priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even just if you take away the physical health parts of it, because I think that sometimes is more subtle, right? Like you can go periods of time where you might not be moving much at all, and you'll probably be fine.
Like losing weight, or like just like physically moving.
Just physically moving. Like you might not come to the gym for like, through COVID, I wasn't weight training at all, right? And that's always what I've found enjoyment out of. I tried running. I didn't ever love it. I never got over that hurdle of actually enjoying going on runs, apart from the competitive element of like beating a previous time. But the whole time I was doing it, I was chasing the numbers and I was hating every minute of it, right? The actual run experience itself. And so for me, weight training is where I get enjoyment out of. But when you took that away from me for a while, it wasn't that I felt like my joints were achy or that I was really weak all of a sudden or anything like that. I didn't notice that change, right? What I did notice was how much my mental health was affected by not working out, right?
Yeah.
And that was more of a like realization to me of like I wouldn't want to stop training altogether for any reason, because I think that for me is more important. It makes my my mind is clear. I feel better.
I reckon that's like over the last 2.5 years, Corey and I have probably pulled each other up in very subtle ways. Because we go through phases where we're super highly motivated to get heaps of work done, and then we're like just getting through it, and it's not an easy. It seems like a long slog to get the work done. And I think the one thing we pull together real quickly is like just queuing each other to train, and then do that first before we get back into our work. Because our admin stuff is like, as PTs, I'm sure everyone's well aware that we don't like doing admin.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Because there's so much... you know why we don't like doing it? Because I reckon it's because the session goes from X starting point to X finishing point and it's done. The work is done.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you run your own business, we have our own gym, like...
It never ends.
There is no end point, right? So it gets so fatiguing, right?
You guys don't see any light.
And there's parts of it that are the fun. There's parts where you get to be creative, and then there's other parts where you just like...
Have to do the work.
To do the work.
Yeah.
And I think during times, particularly even these sorts of times of year where it's colder and miserable, it's even harder to be motivated. But if you keep consistent with your workouts, I think, the mental side of that allows you to be a little bit more productive, a little less depressed. And
just managing it.
Oh God.
Just, I mean, less tired. Yeah. So all of that.
No. Okay. It's like we have to keep. That's why for me, I think sometimes it's like I register it in the weirdest way. It's like, hey, no, like I know Like I don't think I've personally suffered from like what I've diagnosed as depression. Like I've been around it my whole life. Like a few of my siblings have had it, and like I understand what it is and how it feels like. But like I know when I'm feeling like shit, and I just quickly go to like training to fix it for me. Might not, psychologists might not agree with that being the right thing to do, but
it's part of it. It's part of
it. Yeah. Whatever works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know everything. I'm like, whatever works. And then I'm thinking,
oh,
people
question.
are just
I
out
had
here.
few mads because I've been thinking about it since you mentioned the bodybuilding thing.
Oh.
And we've been meaning to ask you this. Now it's on camera. We can cut this out if you don't want to talk about it. How do you feel about the comp? Because we've taken you through, like, obviously the whole comp prep that we got you on stage for, and then we took you through the comp prep that we didn't get on stage for, that we cut off early. How do you feel about comp preps and bodybuilding now? Do you still have a love for it?
Just in general?
In general, yeah.
It differs for me, but I think it's very controversial now. Like, I think the federations that are offered in the bodybuilding industry have changed so much, and there's a lot that I don't agree with. There's a lot of federations that I think have completely just taken away from fitness and gym, and it's more just a beauty pageant, which, I mean, that's fine, but I think the two should be separate. They're creating federations around just based on how people look aesthetically and nothing to do with how hard they've worked in the gym, the mental struggle they've had to go through, the dieting, nothing like that. It's all just how good does your hair look on the day, and your makeup, your tan, and your bikini, what heels are you wearing, what gown you've got on.
Who's your coach?
Exactly,
That's a big one.
Your placing will be determined on how many Instagram followers you have and all that. So I think that part I really dislike about that sort of thing now.
That's any sport though, I think, right? Like any sport where there's no binary win or loss.
Yeah,
right?
it becomes...
Like a sprint, you get it. You came first, you
either won or you lost,
It's only a matter of time as an industry grows before it gets political and then you're chasing money, right?
Yeah.
There's money chasing. So in terms of, I guess, from your first comp, obviously you did a natural competition, you were natural the whole time. In terms of the...
Still natural now.
Just to clarify, guys,
yes.
No. In terms of the toll you think that had on your body in the prep, where would you sort of sit that, I guess, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like had no effect on what you would class as your health, and then 10 being like it was super damaging to your body? Like, where do you sort of rate that part of it?
I think there's two parts to that. So at the time, the way I was feeling and like what my body was going through was super hard, and especially when you sort of just go in like with rose-colored glasses on and you don't actually realize what's involved, which I definitely did. The toll is, I guess, higher because I wasn't...
You know what's expected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking on that scale, probably like, I'd say an 8. But now I actually look at it as like such a positive experience. Like it's changed so much about how I think about fitness and health, and how I want to be coaching people. And I feel like without have gone through that experience myself, I wouldn't have the tools, and I wouldn't be have the mindset that I do now. So I think it's actually helped me in that way, especially too because I know both sides, and having done like a prep and knowing what the body can actually go through and having done it myself, that I think that's really helpful now being in the industry and coaching people.
Yeah. I also think there's a bit of a misconception with a lot of we look at elite athletes, right?
Yeah.
The general population look at elite athletes and we sort of see them as like the pinnacle of health, right?
Yeah.
But anyone at any elite level of any sport, they're actually doing significant damage to their body, right?
Yeah.
And so that's not healthy. Doing anything to an extreme is never healthy, but you're weighing up, I guess, how much you're willing to sacrifice for a certain achievement in your life, right? Most big achievements have some sort of health risk involved in them, and it's whether or not you're willing to make that
I think even in the sports where you don't think it's a thing, it's a thing. Right? You look at NBA and you get NBA players seem to be doing okay. Like, I don't know what, limit they're pushing. Like, there's no physical thing in particular they have to be exceptionally good at. But you look at like what the players talk about as they retire and what they're going to do as they retire. It's like, I didn't get to spend time with my family.
Yeah, the
The
travelling.
emotional toll it takes on these players to play the amount of games they play in a season, to then, try and piece together like what it's done to their health if you factor in everything else.
Yeah.
Yes, like 100%. It's not a healthy thing to be doing at the elite level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just whether or not you think. I mean, I think all of life, every element of life, there's risk, or there's damage being done, right?
Yeah,
you work long hours. Yeah, you're sacrificing another part of your life.
Yeah.
You go for a really high paying job, but you hate it. Well, yeah, you're affecting your mental health and your happiness, right?
Yeah.
And then the alternative is you might be in the best job of ever and you're super happy and it pays fuck all.
Yeah.
And then you're sacrificing your financial life and holidays and and big house and having a family. All that, there's always trade-offs.
Yeah.
And we always like to think of ourselves as like, oh, I'm a healthy person. I found the nice sweet spot, right? But really, when you really look into your individual life, there's always things that you've actually sacrificed for other benefits. Yeah.
All right, as a closing statement then, we've gone over what we were going to say our 30-minute cap for this podcast
Yep.
was, just fine. What did you guys consider to be your definition of health? Like, if you were to tick off a few things that you think the general population could sort of get to or achieve or aim for, what would you think those things should be? They don't have to be exact things, but like, I'll leave on this one because I'm going to give you guys some time to think. Just bringing this question on you, but it's something I think about all the time. It's like, I think as far as like training health goes, like in the gym, like why we place an importance on strength training sometimes gets lost, right? We do it because we believe in it for a certain reason, but the reason doesn't necessarily get, I guess, communicated effectively to our clients. Most of our clients, as a general population group, come to us for the aim goal of losing weight and looking better. That's most of them, right? Like, it's not everyone, but that's most of them. And what gets lost there is like, all right, why strength train then, right? And like, I think the long game when it comes to strength training. I think like, hey, we want to get you to have great bone density, so when we go into like our 50s, 60s, 70s, we have good bone health, right? And that's not something you fucking care about at all when you're 20 or 30 or 40 for that matter, because you don't think about yourself when you're 60 in those ages. But it's something that is important, right? And I think the other thing is strength training means you're going to gain more muscle mass, and muscle mass means you're going to have reduced risks of falls because you have more muscle tissue, right? That again is like that long-term aim of like, hey, let's make sure we're improving your health when you're 50, 60, 70.
And posture goes along with that, muscle mass and posture, right?
Yeah. And then heart health, right? Like, we emphasize pushing people in cardiovascular training, whether that's like, hey, you need to be active and moving more on a day-to-day basis, for like something we track, like for example the step tracking we do, or just the fact that like our program has some cardio built into it, that we understand there's some resistance around, and it might be our own fault as coaches, like the fact that we've emphasised as coaches ourselves that we like strength training means that we've probably put and created a culture where like cardiovascular training has a little bit of,
it's not as important, or
people don't see it as being as important, or they don't like doing it.
Yeah. It's hard.
That I think is a bit of a meme within itself, right?
Yeah.
Not liking cardio, but it is super important still, right? So I think.
Well, I mean, what's the leading killer, right?
Yeah, cardiovascular disease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not getting many people in their 30s or 40s, but it's statistically the biggest killer in Australia, probably every country in the world.
Yeah.
And we only sort of, it doesn't affect you until it does. And when it does, it's probably too late. And at that point, you have a scare, you have whatever it might be, heart attack or something like that, you live, but at that point, like, it's pretty hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
It's probably too late to start, getting on the bike and extending your life by a decade or two at that point, but it can be done now.
Yeah.
Same with the bone density and the building muscle mass. Like, when you age, you deteriorate. And we know from a lot of research that it's all downhill from 25.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Maz.
I'm hoping it gets better from 30. That's what I keep hearing.
It gets better in other ways, but your body starts to break down around 25. I mean, you can sort of reverse some of the breakdown up, into your 30s, but by the time you're sort of in your 40s, like, you're losing bone density, you're losing muscle mass, and you're really either just fighting against the loss at that stage, like you're preventing the atrophy with this sort of training. But it's still going to be declining, right? So we want to create a good base now, 20s, 30s, 40s, and hold off all that deterioration that happens because, it's too late to just start cardio when you're in your 70s. Like,
Well, to say if you're in your 70s,
you should still do it.
Still do it.
Do you reckon I covered off most of it as far as what you would...
I think that's
as
physical health. I think, when my contribution to this is, I think that when it comes to what we value is quite important outside of the gym, which is nutrition, sleep, hydration, particularly nutrition and sleep, I think are the two that not everyone's doing well. In fact, most people aren't doing well. I think when it comes to the reasons why those are poor, it's actually usually mental health.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most people don't just choose to eat poorly for absolutely no reason. There's a reason. You might not know that reason because you haven't really delved into your whys, and I think more people should do that.
Or you're avoiding doing that.
It's an avoidance strategy, right? Like, I think everyone should see a psychologist a few times in their life. Ideally more than that. Because I think psychologists are great at sort of teaching you about how to self-manage your own mental health. Also explaining to you why you might have certain behaviors around certain things. And food and even sleep are usually the things that are affected mostly, not just because you want to eat bad food or you want to overeat or you don't sleep enough. Like, it's because of other things that are going on in your life. And you can't really fully solve those other issues that you might be having around nutrition and sleep until you get to the bottom of why is that happening, right? And coming up with strategies, whether it be like, how do you get out of a slump? How do you deal with stress? How do you avoid eating to reduce your stress in a stressful situation? Like, all of those things, they sort of stem usually from here rather than from here, right? So I think that comes into the health equation as well of, like, what is health? And
any component is good mental health. Yeah. Mads, anything to add?
I think you guys covered it.
Something we've been thinking about for ages. Cool. I think we'll wrap that up as far as the actual episode goes. We want to be asked questions to answer. I think a lot of the next couple of episodes we want to do are answering questions that we commonly get asked. But if you, as the listeners to this video, just going on YouTube first, and hopefully a version of it going on audio when we work that part out, we want to be asked sort of, what do you guys have as far as nutrition questions? What do you guys have as far as training questions that you want us to answer? Anything health related. We have a fairly broad spectrum understanding of health now. Like, being in the industry for a while and going through it with our own experiences and coaching a lot of clients through it as well. Let us know. We want these podcasts to be relevant to you guys, the listeners.
Informative, educational.
All right. Bye.
Wow.
You mean cut, Mads.